To pick up one of the comments speaking of rising stars, thank you very much, Mr. Power. I appreciate the endorsement. I want to pick up some of the comments made by. I want to.
Member's got his future behind him.
That's right. His best there. Mr. Chairman, I want to pick up the comments made by the Minister of Education regarding the amendments put forward by the Labor Party, by members of the Labor Party, and the bill as drafted by the previous Labor government. Because I think it's a terrible shame that the government have decided to vote against some of the provisions put forward by the Labor Party that actually would have clarified the responsibilities of a school board of trustees, something that I think new board members who are going to be elected in this year's elections would have really appreciated, a clear articulation of exactly what it is they're going to be responsible for. And the National Party is voting against what I think is a very common sense and practical amendment put forward by the Labor Party, and the National Party are opposing it. Why is it that the National Party are opposed to articulating in the legislation that one of a school board of trustees' responsibility is ensuring the enrolment at the school of all persons who are entitled to be enrolled at the school? Surely that's something that nobody could object to, articulating clearly that that's one of the responsibilities of a board of trustees, ensuring that education is provided to each student enrolled at the school. Of course, that's what a school is all about. Why can't we articulate that in the legislation so that school boards of trustees are very clear and can be held to account against those responsibilities as set down in legislation? Promoting a school environment that supports the highest standards of achievement for all students. The national government keeps talking about raising standards and setting standards in education, and yet it wants to vote down the idea that schools should be held accountable for that a school board of trustees should have that responsibility defined in legislation, and they're going to vote against that. Actively managing and monitoring the performance of the principal and ensuring that the performance of the school's other staff is actively managed and monitored. I think that's something that's really important to articulate as a responsibility of a school board of trustees, because having spoken to a number of school boards of trustee members, there is a different approach taken in some schools. Some schools see their job as the employer of the principal, and any other responsibility for staff employed within the school is therefore no responsibility of theirs. It's all then on the principal. This would clearly set down to the Board of Trustees that ensuring the performance of the school's other staff is actively managed and monitored is actually one of their responsibilities, and they cannot simply say that's only a matter that a school principal needs to deal with. Yes, the Board of Trustees' primary management responsibility is for the principal, but they do have a role in making sure the other staff are actively managed and monitored as well. Another responsibility set down for a school board of trustees, actively managing and reporting on the school's performance against the aims and objectives set out in the school charter. This is a government that says it wants parents to have more information about schools, how they're doing, how the kids are doing, and yet they are opposed to the idea that one of the fundamental responsibilities of a school board of trustees should be actively managing and reporting on the school's performance. One of those things put forward by the Labor government. It's a very common sense thing, and the government are opposed to it. Ensuring that the school, including its assets, finances and property, are managed in a financially responsible manner. That has to be one of the central functions of the school's governance. A school cannot be effectively governed if the Board of Trustees are not ensuring that their assets, finances and property are managed in a financially responsible manner. That has to be something that should be clearly set down as a responsibility of a school board of trustees. So I don't understand at all why the government seem opposed to articulating very clearly and concisely what a school's board of trustees responsibility is. Because a new school board of trustees member, and there will be new members after the elections this year, should be able to know that. I also want to turn to some of the recommendations put forward by the Select Committee. The Select Committee has recommended that only natural persons and not bodies corporate may be appointed as limited statutory managers or commissioners of a school, but they may be appointed as being of a named body corporate. I think that's really important. Speaking to schools in my own electorate who have been the subject of limited statutory management, what they tell me is that the relationships are vital. Having a good relationship with their limited statutory manager is really important. Limited statutory managers, Mr Chairman.
Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Limited statutory managers are effectively taking away some of the responsibility of a school board of trustees. In doing so, they have handed a great amount of trust and responsibility. It's important that they have a good relationship, a relationship of trust with the community that they are there to serve. And that would be hindered if there wasn't an actual person that a school could identify and say, this is our person, this is the person that we're dealing with. I think that's a very sensible amendment put forward by the Select Committee. The committee also recommends inserting new clauses to allow the Minister of Education to split one or more schools from a combined establishment board. This will allow for the situation where one of a group of new schools was ready to be opened before the others, and allow the Minister to split a new board off to govern the school that had opened while retaining a combined establishment board for the remaining schools. I think that's a very sensible, practical amendment that's being put forward by the Select Committee, and one that I think should be supported. So in conclusion, Mr Chairman, I'm at a loss to explain why the National Government seems so opposed to clearly articulating a School Board of Trustees responsibility. I think it's really important in the case of limited statutory managers, and I have had some in my own electorate who I've spoken to who have said that those relationships are really important, so having a person that they can deal with is really important. I think that's something that the Select Committee has recommended, and something I think the House should support. I think overall many of the amendments put forward in this bill are positive. They're constructive amendments. It's a shame that the government have put the blinkers on and said, actually, only the ones that we're putting forward ourselves are ones that we're going to support. We're not going to go wide. We're not going to pick up many of the other practical, sensible things put forward by the previous Labor government or by members on the Labor side at the present time.
I call Chris